Hey there, YouTube and Wooper Club fans, it's me, Michael, aka Fruit Taco, aka the coach of the Route 1 Burbs, here kicking off the feature match coverage of Wooper Club League Season 15. I've got a great match for you today, too. The Newport Noctowls are going up against the Waterdeep Wobbuffets. The Noctowls are led by undeniably one of the best coaches in the league, and the Wobbuffets are right up there with them, coming off of a first and second place finish in the last two seasons. Who will come out on top today and get the great start to their season going? Let's find out. This season, the Noctowls are made up of Terra Captain Regieleki, Greninja, Ogerpon, Salamence, Tinkaton, Furret, Quillfish, Chandelure, Phalanx, Terra Captain Farigiraf, and Donphan. And they'll be going up against the Waterdeep Wobbuffets, who have Chien Pao, Iron Moth, Landorus Incarnate, but Sheer Force is banned, Terra Captain Frogadier, Pecharunt, Terra Captain Necrozma, Blastoise, Hisuian Zorua, Hisuian Decidueye, Electros, and Berserker. Well, both of these teams definitely have plenty of speed. The Noctowls have that Aleki, but Chien Pao for the Wobbuffets is definitely no slouch in the speed department. Gren and higher tier Mons in those high speed tiers give the Noctowls a slight edge in speed, but not by that much. For the Noctowls matchup here, well, the Wobbuffets are only overall weak to Dark. Dragon, Flying Ghost, and Rock are all solid neutral options, though. Nothing resists Bolt Beam, so Terra Regieleki and Mensa's Stab options definitely look great. Greninja also looks quite good either with like a Choiced Protean set or Battle Bond. Tinkaton will definitely be coming and be very important in managing that Chien Pao, though, defensively. For the Wobbuffets, well, the Noctowls are overall weak to ground. Dragon, Flying, and Normal are also decent neutral options into them. And man, Landorus looks excellent, maybe with some kind of coverage for Mence and Ogerpon, or maybe even manual Sandforce. Chien Pao is, of course, a monster, and while there are 3 Dark Rusets on the other side, only one is really bulky at all. Terra Necrozma could function as a nice wall potentially for the Wobbuffets defensively, or of course has plenty of setup potential. We'll see if they bring it, what kind of flavor they're bringing. And looking at this match overall, it's a tough call. I think both coaches have a great shot here. I think the Noctowls might have a slightly better matchup, just with some of their more fast offensive pieces. However, I really like the Wobbuffets team and how well it plays to their coach's strengths, so I think that I might be able to go with them getting a little bit of a stronger start of this season and picking up the win over the Noctowls. We'll have to see how that all plays out, though, and before we do that, we're going to go into what the coaches are actually bringing to the match, starting off with the Noctowls. And kicking things off for the Noctowls here is Regieleki. We do see Terra Ice with the heavy-duty boots protecting it from rocks once it's terra'd. Heavy speed investment to outspeed +1 Iron Moth, with then max special attack and the rest of the EVs in some HP there. Rapid Spin to remove hazards, Thunderbolt and Volt Switch Stab, and then of course that Ice-type Terra Blast for that classic Bolt Beam coverage coming off of this set. And, well, this is basically exactly what I expected to see. Definitely the Terra option of choice in this match, and that dual stab combo is really nice into the Wobbuffets. Rapid Spin makes sense given the Mence and Greninja we'll see in a sec that don't want to get chipped down by rocks, but Extreme Speed also could have been a cool choice here to outspeed things like Chien Pao's Sucker Punch, or something like maybe an Agility Iron Moth. Really, though, a classic Regieleki set, and pretty much what I expect to see from it most of the time this season. Moving on, we have Greninja with a Life Orb and rocking that Battle Bond ability, giving it a stat boost if it gets a KO, the first time it gets a KO in the match. Enough speed to outspeed Iron Moth, and then max special attack and the rest in HP. Surf and Dark Pulse Stab with Sludge Wave coverage for the Decidueye, who naturally resists both the Water and Dark moves. Then of course we got Water Shuriken for some nice priority. This is really another great set. Definitely watch out for this thing to activate Battle Bond and then clean up in the late game. Going on to a third scary offensive piece, we've got Salamence rocking a Choice Scarf Moxie sweeping set. Max attack Adamant with enough speed to outspeed +1 Necrozma, and then some extra bulk with the leftovers, of course. Outrage and Dragonclaw Stab with Earthquake for Tinkaton and Pecharunt, and Iron Head for any potential Terra Fairy Mons. this is the third sweeping and cleaning set we've seen so far, with this one leaning towards maybe being a little bit more of a breaker than something I expect to kind of clean up at the end of the match. Without boots, rocks could be annoying, along with potential Qianpao Ice Shard, of course, being something this has to watch out for. But with only one Dragon Resist on the other side, Outrage with a Moxie boost could absolutely wreck through the opposing team, so we'll see how that plays up. Now, finally getting into some defense, Tinkaton, a max HP and defense set with the leftovers, and Mold Breaker mostly just ignoring Necrozma's Prism Armor with that knockoff. Play Rough is a solid stab option with Rocks and Encore for some utility. Here's pretty much, again, what I was expecting. You gotta have that max physical defense Tinkaton basically mandatory going up against a Qianpao. Encore is an interesting choice here, locking something into setup or a utility option. I might have favored Thunder Wave to be able to do something like catch Iron Moth switching in, but a well-timed Encore can be a huge momentum swing, and we'll see if it's able to pay off for the Noctowls in the match. Going on, we have Ogerpon, timid nature with enough speed to outspeed max speed Landorus with max attack and some leftover HP investment. Oh, sorry, that was a jolly nature. The Mirror Herb is an interesting item on this set, trying to copy some kind of opposing stat boost. Ivy Cudgel Stab, with Zen Headbutt being super effective against 3 of the 4 grass resists on the other side. And then another Encore user and Synthesis as an interesting option to give this a little bit of a bulky support feel too. This set has me a little confused. It's not bad by any means, but I don't know what exactly it's looking to do. Copy a Swords Dance, a Cosmic Power, a Shell Smash? I don't know how likely that is, but if it goes off, then, well, good for the Noctowls. Encore and Synthesis also makes me wonder exactly what the plan is, going with 2 utility options over stuff like U-Turn, Knockoff, or Brick Break. Really interested to see how this Ogerpon is used in the match. And lastly, we have for Rigoraph, max special defense and HP to complement the physically defensive Tinkaton, Colberberry as a way to survive a Dark-type attack from Qianpao and hit back with a low kick, with the sassy nature not dropping attack, so it's a 37% chance to OHKO, no bulk Qianpao. Very cool. Psychic then as reliable stab, Wish and Protect for some longevity for itself and its team, and of course we see the Terra Water there. Don't expect it to Terra instead of the Regieleki, but if something happens to that Aleki, nice little defensive type there to no longer be weak to Qianpao's stabs. I'm really interested in the Colberberry low kick combo though. It's a little risky as Banded Qianpao still does 73% minimum, so you really can't take too much damage and still pull off that trick. But hey, if it works, that's going to be absolutely huge. Trading most of a Girafarig for potentially all of a Qianpao is a trade any of us would take any day of the week. Well, overall thought on the team, this is a cool team that definitely matches what I expect to see from the Noctowls this season with their very offensively oriented draft. 2 reliable bulky pieces, and then 4 hard hitters, 3 of which I could easily see sweeping or cleaning. The Wobbuffets have some nice bulk and a ton of momentum though, so we'll see if the Noctowls can manage to keep up the pressure. Moving on to the Wobbuffets, though, we're of course starting off with that scary Qianpao. Jolly nature with enough speed to outspeed Greninja, max attack, and then the leftovers in HP with a choice band for even more damage. Icicle Crash Stab with Sacred Sword to hit Tinkaton neutrally, Sucker Punch for powerful stab priority, and Psychic Fangs to break screens and hit Quillfish. There's definitely some interesting move choices here. Icicle Crash and Sacred Sword make plenty of sense. Psychic Fangs has some utility, but I'd really love to see Crunch here since Dark looks so spammable into the other team. Sucker Punch is powerful, so it makes sense to run it so you can smack things with Regieleki and anything with a speed boost, but we'll see if being locked into a conditional move could cause problems for them over going with something like the reliable Ice Shard. Moving on to Iron Moth, we've got max speed Timid with max HP investment and heavy duty boots. This thing will speed tie Ogerpon. Morning Sun, Overheat Discharge, and U-Turn is a weird kind of stally wall support set, sort of? Overheat is the stab option of choice to OHKO offensive Ogerpon and be a 75% chance to OHKO max HP Tinkaton. Discharge is coverage, which could paralyze Pokemon and do something like 71% minimum to Greninja, while barely living Life Orb Surf thanks to the HP investment. as well as, well, I guess, hitting Quillfish. There's definitely some use here as something like a consistent switch into Ogerpon and Tikaton, thanks to that HP investment and Morning Sun. Discharge is a little suspect in my mind, but with the Psychic Fangs we saw on Qianpao, I do think he's really expecting that Intimidate Quillfish as an additional switch into Qianpao, and potentially now Iron Moth as well. So, covering it to hit that on the switch in, as well as just potentially get some nice paras, not too bad. Moving on to Landorus, though, max attack and jolly nature to outspeed Salamence with Sand Force as the ability because Sheer Force is banned on it. We've got the Soft Sand boosting the power of Earthquake instead, with U-Turn and Rock Tomb coverage, and then Stealth Rocks as the last move on the set. And, man, this set looks really strong. Ground is super spammable into the Noctowls, with U-Turn smacking Ogerpon for over half, and Rock Tomb doing the same to Salamence. I think he might be predicting Choice Scarf Moxie Salamence, because Rock Tomb counters it just so well. You don't take the Intimidate drop, so you smack it for over half, and then drop its speed, so you outspeed it the next turn even though it's scarfed. If that wasn't the plan, we might be seeing something like Rock Slide in that move slot instead, so a pretty cool call by the Wobbuffets in the team builder here. Next is Necrozma with max HP, max special attack modest, with a speed-lowering nature and no speed IVs. Weakness policy to activate on something like a knockoff or a U-turn. Terra Dragon is an interesting choice to resist a couple types, but still be weak to some others that we see on the other team. Might be intentionally keeping some weaknesses to still try to be able to proc a weakness policy. Photon Geyser and Earth Power as the offensive moves, with Calm Mind and then Trick Room. This actually underspeeds No Speed for Farigiraf, and while Trick Room seems strange with a team this fast, going up against Regieleki and Greninja, well, even Pokemon like Iron Moth and Landorus can make use of that Trick Room, not to mention Electros, which we see in that last slot. I think this is a really cool set, and Trick Room looks really actually good. The Terra Dragon does stump me a little. You're probably looking to activate the weakness policy on something weaker than a Salamence's Dragon move, and would prefer the Tinkaton knockoff to proc it instead of the Stab Play Rough. But like I said, they could be intentionally keeping a couple weaknesses to try and get that boost. I'd really expect something like Terra Fairy instead, though, but since it's the only Terra Captain on the team, we'll see how it goes in the match and how they try to use that Terra. Blastoise is next, max HP with mixed defensive investment, leaning specially defensive, and another speed-lowering nature here with Leftovers. Rapid Spin to clear rocks for Qianpao, Flip Turn Momentum, Haze utility, and Surf for some damage. This is a nice utility set with some versatile defensive options, taking about half from Battle Bond Greninja's Life Orb Dark Pulse, and just over half from Salamence's Outrage. I'm guessing Haze is mostly to clear away the Battle Bond boost, but if this Pokemon is healthy, it might be able to haze away some Salamence boosts, potentially. However, I do think that is mostly here for the Rapid Spin support, and then the Flip Turn out into the big threats. And last up is the Electros I mentioned, max HP with mixed offensive investment leaning on the physical side, and of course a speed-lowering nature here for that Trick Room potential. U-Turn, Drain Punch, and Knock Off on the physical side, with Giga Drain doing over half to max HP Donphan. Drain Punch has the power to potentially OHKO No Bulk Regieleki if it's terrored into an Ice type, while also being decent neutral coverage and providing some sustain paired with the utility of Knock Off and U-Turn. I definitely didn't expect Electros when I first looked at the matchup, but with the Trick Room and as a Regieleki switch in, I can actually see this putting in some work. You've got that nice Assault Vest to resist those special attacks. You've got the Drain Punch to potentially KO it back. You naturally resist the electric moves. I think it's actually pretty smart bring here, especially with that tricky Trick Room strategy that we can see the Wobbuffets bust out. Overall, this team is a lot less straightforward than I expected. No Pecharunt physical wall, a bulky Iron Moth, and a Trick Room core. There's definitely some bold choices here, which I didn't expect from the Wobbuffets, at least this early in the season, who I expected to have a pretty simple game plan focusing on execution. Against the hyper offense of the Noctowls, though, this is a really cool approach, and I'm excited to see what pays off and what doesn't. So with all of those things covered, there's only one thing left to do, and that's jump into the match and see how everything went down. Here at the team preview, the coaches, this is a Terra preview season, so the coaches do see the Terra types of the opposing Pokemon. For the Wobbuffets here, no Quillfish means Chien-Pao is even more spammable with one less Intimidate and one less Ice Resist. Regieleki is the only hazard removal, so setting up rocks could make it vulnerable trying to get off a spin. Otherwise, probably a pretty expected team from the Noctowls. Landorus hits everything super effectively and looks absolutely fantastic, as does the raw power of Chien-Pao. Of course, they do see Battle Bond as well on the Greninja here in Team Preview, so we'll see how they do or do not play around it. For the Noctowls, Salamence looks outstanding, with no Dragon Resist naturally or with Terra in the match, as well as no Petrarent Physical Wall. No Decidueye means Gren can click its stab moves all game long, and, well, Necrozma's probably the biggest question mark, just can do so many different things. Bulky, offensive, setup, not. We'll see how they suss out what that Necrozma is doing during the match. For the leads, we're going to have Landorus and Regieleki. Pretty expected lead from the Noctowls with free Volt Switch or Terra Blast into a potential Landorus. For the Wobbuffets, well, they're a little on the back foot here, but it wasn't a bad lead as it offered Rocks and a good matchup into Tinkaton, who could have led for Rocks or as a Chien-Pao answer, thinking about just leading off with the very powerful Chien-Pao, going for a big move turn 1. Turn 1, we will have to see the switch on into the Electros, who's going to eat the Terra Ice Terra Blast, giving away some info on its investment. Volt Switch out here into the specially defensive Vigoroth, who's going to eat its Colbert Berry to take a knockoff a little bit better. Wish goes up as a big U-turn, brings Vigoroth down to 27% and brings in a pretty free-looking Chien-Pao. But a smart double from the Wobbuffets out into Landorus is going to predict the Tinkaton come in and pay off with that Tinkaton in fact switching in. And really that Tinkaton is what the Wobbuffets are looking to target down because it is really the only thing getting in the way of Chien-Pao in this match. So we'll see how the Noctowls are pressured here. Definitely have to switch out into Ogerpon to take a potential ground type move, but that just means the Rock Scope for free. Landorus then's going to stay in, actually, take over half from Ivy Cudgel. Maybe they were predicting a U-turn or something, but it's then going to do over about 2/3 with its own U-turn out into that Chien-Pao. Farigiraf is going to get sacked as Chien-Pao locks itself into Sacred Sword, but won't reveal the choice item yet. Then, of course, Tinkaton comes back out. Blastoise is going to be the switch in, perhaps predicting these rocks getting set up here, as well as having bulk to take any attack. Ogerpon will switch into the Rapid Spin here, clearing away the rocks for that Chien-Pao, but the Mirror Herb will copy the speed boost there from the Rapid Spin, although this is a very slow Blastoise, so even without copying that speed boost, Ogerpon still would have outsped next turn. Here, turn 10, Blastoise is forced out into Iron Moth to take a potential Ivy Cudgel, but Ogerpon reveals the Synthesis and could potentially threaten Moth with something like a Stomping Tantrum, so we see that switch out into Electros to scout what that Ogerpon may go for. However, it does reveal the Sen Headbutt, which could do upwards of 80% to that Iron Moth. Electros is low enough that it will get sacked here to another Ivy Cudgel, which lets Moth back in, who can be pretty sure it's not going to get one shot, takes the Zen Headbutt, and no flinch and no overheat miss means Ogerpon will go down, bringing in the Salamence. Mence doesn't have the boots, making it inferable that it's probably choiced or potentially a Yachi Berry, definitely giving the Wobbuffets some information here. The Noctowls could have gone into Aleki for a free Volt Switch or Greninja to try to activate Battle Bond. With the rest of the Wobbuffets team so healthy, it's probably best to hold off on Greninja until it can get more KOs. Both Regieleki and Salamence probably force the Iron Moth sack here, but Mence definitely forces Chien-Pao to go for a priority move the following turn, which could give the Noctowls some much-needed information. Regieleki might have forced the same thing, but might not have made, and if so, wouldn't have made Salamence take the rocks damage here, but it could have had Necrozma come out instead of that Chien-Pao, so I think this might be a play for the Noctowls just trying to get information on the sets of the Wobbuffets. Dragonclaw will reveal the Choice Scarf and pick up the KO for the Moxie boost. Of course, now Chien-Pao has to come out. Tinkaton comes out to scout Qianpao's move, which is revealed to be the Sucker Punch, meaning it probably doesn't have Ice Shard and isn't Choice Scarfed. Blastoise switches in again, just like last time, but here the Noctowls predict that and make a great double out into a Regieleki, getting the nice chance here to Rapid Spin the rocks away from Mence. The Wobbuffets actually risk taking upwards of 78% from an electric move, but do get a nice chunk off with that flip turn, instead to bring out the Necrozma, whose Trick Room shenanigans look pretty nice. That Tinkaton is the only even remotely slow thing on the Noctowls team, so getting Trick Room up actually could really open up the field for something like Landorus. Terra Dragon comes out, resisting the Volt Switch out into the Tinkaton as Trick Room is going to go up. And here, like I said, the Wobbuffets are in a pretty solid position, able to Earth Power Tinkaton, which would possibly put it in range of being KO'd by Qianpao's Sacred Sword. It could also possibly bait a Play Rough here to activate the Weakness Policy, and letting it then outspeed and possibly OHKO everything the Noctowls have left. So definitely a pretty good situation for the Wobbuffets here. They actually go for Calm Mind over Earth Power, though, as Tinkaton actually encores them into it. I'm really surprised by that Calm Mind, as getting big damage into Tinkaton I think would have been huge for that Qianpao, and if the Weakness Policy gets triggered, then you really don't need that boost. Maybe Steve was predicting a switch? Regardless, I think an attack here is a much better move and use of your time, hitting either something on the switch or just smacking Tinkaton. The Noctowls did make a great play here, though. Encore does a few things. It could potentially, if that Necrozma isn't slow, it potentially locks it into further Trick Rooms, and if it is, which is pretty likely given it clicked Trick Room, it locks it into any potential setup or status move like we saw. If it does attack, anything that threatens Tinkaton is something that Salamence should be able to switch into, but you don't want it to be taking that huge damage on Tinkaton, as it is what is standing in the way of Qianpao. Turn 20, though, here, we'll see that because of that Encore, Necrozma, of course, has to switch out. It's going to switch into Blastoise, who will easily take the Play Rough. Surf is going to get some chip onto Tinkaton, who will knock off the leftovers and bring Blast to a bit over half health. Here, last turn of Trick Room, and Blastoise flip turns out to Landorus, but, oh, the Tinkaton actually goes for Encore? I think this was a really big misplay for the Noctowls. I mean, you see that it's the last turn of Trick Room, and I think the flip turn or switch is very predictable. Another knockoff or Play Rough would have for sure been my choice there. I guess they were maybe trying to lock in into Surf or something, so maybe something could switch into that. But if that's the thought, then just switch something like the Salamence into it now if you're already predicting the Surf, and be in a much better position after that Trick Room ends. Trick Room gone, though, means Tinkaton does have to switch out, trying to dodge a ground move by going out into Salamence, but we do see the Rock Tomb tech come out from the Wobbuffets. Really nice prediction from the Wobbuffets here, and what a huge payoff for bringing Rock Tomb. It's doing exactly what I had talked about. We've baited in the Flying-type Salamence on a potential ground move, gotten big damage off, and now, with the speed drop, you will outspeed it next turn despite it having a Choice Scarf. And even if Salamence wasn't the switch-in, really anything but a min-roll KO's Regieleki, Greninja gets slowed and is then threatened, and this was just an incredible situation and payoff that the Wobbuffets have created for themselves. Mence gets sacked as everything is threatened by Landorus, as I had mentioned, and now Greninja comes out with a chance to activate Battle Bond. Surf will come out, probably predicting Qianpao, though, as Blastoise switches in, but it's easily going to take that Surf. Dark Pulse comes out. Blastoise lives, though, but does flinch. And what a break for the Noctowls, stopping what I expect was a flip turn. If that went off, Qianpao can come in and just gets a free KO, or Necrozma can come in and set that Trick Room again. Instead, the Wobbuffets are pretty much forced to sack something to an incoming Surf this turn. Really unfortunate with that flinch, and that's really putting the Noctowls back into this match. The Wobbuffets do let Blastoise go down, which activates Battle Bond before we're going to see a lot of text, and then the Necrozma comes out. They could have switched into Necrozma to take the Surf, but it wouldn't be happy to take a potential Dark Pulse on the following turn. And, well, you can see it really didn't want to take a +1 Dark Pulse now either, though. But activating the Battle Bond here and potentially being able to force Gren out with a potential Trick Room or just get damage on it while it's chipping itself down with that Life Orb could be nice here. We do see the Dark Pulse come out, but no flinch means that Trick Room will go up. Gren does reveal the Water Shuriken, though, and gets the about 65% chance of getting more than 2 hits to pick up the KO. Because of that speed boost, though, Chien Pao can come out and will actually underspeed it in the Trick Room now. Tinkaton switches in and takes Sacred Sword here pretty well, but with 2 turns of Trick Room left. Chien Pao stays in. Tinkaton gets a mid-roll on that play rough before going down to a follow-up Sacred Sword, letting Gren come in with 1 turn of Trick Room left. No longer with that Battle Bond speed boost, will now underspeed Chien Pao, as well as having potential priority with that Water Shuriken. And, well, looking here for the Wobbuffets, something's gotta die to Surf. And it will be the Landorus, as Trick Room is going to expire this turn. And of course, the Chien Pao is the last Pokemon there. And we see a little bit of some mind games here. The Wobbuffets are definitely in a little bit of a tricky situation, as they only have the 1 Pokemon left. However, they are right now thinking about, what do you lock yourself into? You've got that choice band. Do you go Sucker Punch, or do you go with something like Sacred Sword? And we're going to see that the Noctowl will switch out as Chien Pao does lock itself into Sucker Punch, sealing the game for the Noctowls as they proceed to switch and stall out the Sucker Punches. If the Noctowls had attacked into Sucker Punch with that Greninja, well, they probably lose, because Greninja goes down and Alecki only has attacking moves. But if they attack and the Chien Pao goes for Sacred Sword, well, they'd KO it and win with the Alecki because it outspeeds. This switch was a nice middle ground, giving them the win if Sucker Punch is picked, but even if Alecki goes down on the switch, they have about a 58% chance to KO with the Water Shuriken later, so a nice middle ground play that ends up paying off for them and securing them the Week 1 win here over the Waterdeep Wobbuffets. And that will wrap up the first feature match of WCL Season 15. The Wobbuffets played really well, but unfortunately that flinch on Blastoise set them pretty far back. Not to take any credit away from the Noctowls, though, as they played very well around that Chien Pao, and Water Shuriken came in huge, really limiting the opportunities of some of those heavy hitters, especially at the end, when it really was in the thorn of several alternative plays I could have seen for the Wobbuffets. Thanks to the coaches, though, for the excellent battle, an excellent start to WCL Season 15, and if this battle is anything to go by, it's going to be one heck of a season. So I hope that you subscribe to the channel so you can stick around for more content covering the season. Please like, subscribe, comment, all of that YouTube stuff, and, well, thanks to yourself for watching the video here with me, and I'll see you in the next one.